Even though China has been forced to pull back troops from the LAC border after 4 years of bitter military standoff with India, New Delhi is actively boosting its defense partnerships in the entire Indo-Pacific and renewing alliances to counter any future threats of Chinese expansionism. The Modi government sees Singapore as a vital piece in this geopolitical chessboard. Just 2 days after China agreed to stand down at the LAC, India hosted the 6th India-Singapore Defence Ministerial Dialogue, co-chaired by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and his Singaporean counterpart N.E. Hen on the 22nd of October, where two nations decided to boost their defence alliances by hosting regular military exercises and war games to enhance interoperability between their forces. The island nation's defence minister declared, quote, "Singapore supports and wishes for India to play a stronger role in the Asia-Pacific region," unquote. Singapore is highly significant. India and Singapore control two entry points to the Malacca Strait through which 80% of Chinese oil imports pass. Most Chinese naval vessels need to navigate through this narrow strategic waterway on the way from the South China Sea to the entire Indian Ocean region, the Middle East and back. Controlling the Malacca Strait will seriously dent China's ability to engage in any prolonged warfare. India's stature after emerging on top in this diplomatic tussle with China is only rising. Now, this was evident with Singapore's defense minister hailing India as, quote, "strategic voice for Asia's peace and stability." Along with facilitating discussions on global issues of mutual interest, leaders of both nations agreed to rack up military cooperation, including training and industrial collaboration, and exploring niche domains like automation and artificial intelligence. The two ministers also decided to take forward the cooperation in emerging areas like cybersecurity. Both sides agreed to extend the bilateral agreement on joint military training for the next 5 years as they welcome the renewal of the Army bilateral agreement. An official press release by the Ministry of Defense stated that both ministers acknowledged the deep and long-standing bilateral defense relations based on shared outlook on regional peace, stability, and security. Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh hailed the agreement as a testament of increasing closeness between our countries, unquote. Now Singh added, quote, "The meeting is happening at a time when India marks the decade of India's Act East policy, in which Singapore has played a key role in promoting economic cooperation, cultural ties, and developed strategic connectivity with country institutions." Remember, the India-Singapore Defence Ministers' Dialogue, established in 2016, is a pivotal platform for strengthening defence cooperation. Singapore's Defence Minister also lauded India's role in his country's rise, stating, quote, "When we started the Singapore Armed Forces, one of the countries that we asked early on to see whether they could help us was India. We feel that India is very much part of our area. We are delighted that our 10 years of bilateral relations have been very much improved in defence and all-round strategic partnership," unquote. The renewal of India-Singapore defence partnership comes after Prime Minister Modi's visit to the island nation just last month, where he met PM Lawrence Wong, and the two nations agreed to enhance economic cooperation and partnership, especially in the semiconductor domain. While the defence ministers were meeting in New Delhi over at the Air Force Station in Kalai Kunda, West Bengal, the Joint Military Training or JMT exercise kick-started. The bilateral phase will take off on 13th of November, which will see Indian Air Force's Sukhoi 30s, NCA Tejas, as well as Rafale fighter jets take to the skies alongside Singapore's F-15 and F-16 fighter jet squadrons. Singapore will be sending its biggest ever contingent for bilateral aerial exercises with Indian Air Force, which also comprises its G550 airborne early warning and control and C-130 aircrafts. The two air forces will engage in advanced air combat simulations, joint mission planning, tactical exchanges, as well as debriefing sessions. According to the official release, the IAF will even press its Jaguar and MiG-29 fighter jets into action in these elaborate war games with Singapore. Now, this is the second time within 6 months the two air forces are engaging in friendly war games. Earlier this year, the Singapore Air Force had also participated in Tarang Shakti war games in India, which were the biggest ever aerial war games ever to be hosted by India. Remember, at a time when Chinese expansionist posturing as well as aggressive actions have reached their peak in the Indo-Pacific, India has been on an extensive ASEAN outreach to increase its influence in China's backyard through joint regular military exercises, military exchanges, training programs, as well as mega defense deals. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in his address at the 21st ASEAN India Summit in Laos, reaffirmed India's support for the bloc's unity, centrality, and outlook in the Indo-Pacific, a region where China refuses to accept maritime rights of its ASEAN neighbors. Now, India considers Singapore its bridge to Southeast Asia. During Prime Minister Modi's visit last month, the two nations elevated their bilateral ties to comprehensive strategic partnership, governed by deep historical ties, economic synergies, and shared vision for regional stability. India considers Singapore a crucial part of its Act East policy. The solid ties shared between the states can be dated back to August 1965, when Singapore gained independence, and within 15 days, India became one of the first nations to formally establish diplomatic relations with Singapore. Singapore's strategic position in the intersection of East-West shipping route, a key global trade pathway, makes it an ideal partner for India's initiatives to strengthen connections with Southeast Asia. However, this shared vision is threatened in the 21st century by Chinese expansionist ambitions and disregard of rules-based international order. In such a scenario, is Singapore a key ally for India to keep China's influence in check? Leave a comment with your opinion and subscribe to Inconnect News for more defense news and geopolitics.